and good evening, everybody. Portugal Golden Visa, that's what we're talking about tonight with Holborn Assets. And the subtitle you'll see here is Last Chance Before Legislation Changes. We'll hear a presentation from Jason Swan. His colleague Shane Peacock is also here. After the presentation, we're keen to take your questions. You can feel free to put those into the chat right away if anything piques your interest or you're curious about, or you want a question answered, just let us know in the chat and I will do my best to field those questions. So good evening to all of you who've joined us tonight. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Jason, for being here this evening. Great to see you again, Jason. Over to you for the presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Kel. Yeah, good to see you again. Hello to everybody. Thanks for logging in. You've got myself and Shane from Holborn Assets this evening. It's 7:30 here in the Algarve, and you've got both of us here covering, well, as you can see, the topic of, is this the last chance to be looking at the Golden Visa? There was, of course, the statement made by the Prime Minister a couple of weeks back, which has sparked an element of panic. It's not panic stations just yet, but there is now an element of urgency with the Golden Visa. So between myself and Shane, yeah, we'll look to give you an overview on the process. First of all, so what is the Golden Visa? If you're logging in for the first time or just starting to look at the Golden Visa, we'll give you a good understanding of what's involved, what are the benefits of the Golden Visa, what are the requirements for the Golden Visa, and of course the process to get there as well. We'll have a look at some properties as well. So, but between myself and Shane, we'll show you what we feel are the top investments in Portugal right now, what's currently available that qualifies for the Golden Visa, with the minimum entry for capital at 280,000. So we'll cover those off with you as well. At the end, hopefully we'll be able to answer most of your questions during the slides that we'll cover. However, we will do a question and answer section at the end of the presentation. You will see a question and answer box just at the bottom of the screen. Please do just type in your questions as we go. And yeah, they'll pop up at the session at the end, and we'll make sure we cover off those one by one. If there's any questions that you prefer to ask privately, you can submit them anonymously, but also you'll have an email from me this morning as well for any questions you have to send via email. So without further ado, yeah, my name is Jason Swan. I'm a senior partner for Holborn Assets. Holborn Assets are a wealth management company, one of the largest wealth management companies now in the world. And with me is my colleague Shane Peacock, who heads up a group within Holborn Assets, which is our service designed for in citizenship and residency by investment. So between the two of us, we have a lot of experience in Portugal generally. I live in Portugal myself, so I'm speaking from experience. I moved here about 2 years ago. I recently bought a place in Albufeira in the Algarve, and previous to Portugal, I was in Spain for 5 years, and I'm a qualified and regulated financial planner for everything money related coming into Portugal. So I get more involved when it comes to the tax planning and the financial questions that may come up. And Shane, of course, is a specialist with regard to citizenship and residency as well. So he'll be talking you through some slides this evening. So other than that, I'm going to hand over to Shane now, if I may. And yeah, everyone, please put any questions in as we go, and we'll cover off as much as we can.
Thanks very much, Jason. So yes, tonight we're going to be talking about Portugal as a program. But before we get there, it's just important to know that Portugal isn't a standalone option. There are multiple options around the world. If we look at sort of a worldwide opportunity, pretty much every country worldwide, barring Africa, has an opportunity such as this. So you're looking from the Americas to the Australias and everywhere in the middle, you can have that. So if you are looking for alternative options, give us drop us a line. We are able to assist in any option that you may think of. But tonight, obviously, we are talking about the Portuguese Golden Visa. The Portuguese Golden Visa itself, there's many reasons why people are looking at this kind of opportunity. Primarily, it's because of the fact that it is not a pack up and go. The Golden Visa requires you only 14 days a year. However, the country is absolutely amazing. Language shouldn't be an issue, so there shouldn't be a restriction. If you look at them as a country, they actually learn English within school, so English is very widely spoken. Obviously, from an expat point of view, there's many different cultures there, so easy to get along. Location-wise, pretty much Central Europe, which basically means you have access to all the different regions, world-class education, English-speaking schools, as well as obviously Portuguese schools, and quite a favorable tax environment. Now, the tax environment, generally, I'm not as exciting as Jason. So Jason's going to run through sort of the taxes and why these taxes are exciting. I'm going to leave my side more for the colorful environment. Jason?
Very good. So, yeah, apart from the sunshine and apart from the beaches, the added benefit of Portugal is the unique tax regime. So a common question that comes up is around NHR. And I'm not going to kind of send everyone to speak too much about tax, but it is a hot topic when deciding whether Portugal is the way forward. But if you are moving to Portugal, once you become tax resident in Portugal, you can apply for a very unique tax regime called NHR, which is the non-habitual resident scheme. Quite simply, for those that have just moved to the country, for the first 10 years of residence in Portugal, they can apply to have a very low / no rate of tax on their overseas income. So that can consist of rental income from abroad. It can consist of dividends, whether that be from a personal company, whether it be from some form of share portfolio. And also you can have a reduced rate of tax on pension income of just 10% as well. So that covers off those that are perhaps retired or have a passive income from abroad. For those that are looking to live and work in Portugal, then you may fall into the category of a highly skilled worker. And if it is to the benefit of Portugal, they may allow you to have a very low rate, again, of just 20% as a flat rate tax on that income. So after those are said and done, furthermore, a big part of what we do is then thinking about long-term in Portugal. There are tools available, should I say, investment vehicles available to help with long-term income as well. So for those that are looking to draw their retirement income from some form of investment portfolio, there are ways in which you can have up to a 60% discount on the tax due on that portfolio income as well. So that's something, again, that on the Golden Visa is designed generally not to move to Portugal immediately. One of the key benefits of the Golden Visa is to not have to be here just yet. And it gives you that kind of, starts the clock ticking to the passport after 5 years without having to be here more than really 1 week per year. So you might not be looking to become tax resident in Portugal straight away, in which case the NHR won't be applicable just yet. But it's something to look forward to if you are looking to retire. And again, it's quite easy to assess whether or not you'd be applicable for it. So yeah, if that is of interest, if you are looking to move to Portugal in the near future, again, just drop a message in the Q&A and we can touch on that more towards the end. There you go, a little section on tax. Shane, whether that was exciting enough for you?
Starting all the tax. So let's move on swiftly then. So the actual Golden Visa itself, that's generally why we're here today. So it started off in 2012. It's a program that it started off quite slowly. In 2012, we had 2 applications go forward in the entire program. Since then, it's escalated quite dramatically. Now we've had over 10,000 applications approved, and this is 10,000 families basically. And what we've seen now is the full completion of the program. So we've now seen clients starting to receive their passports. Therefore, what it says on the box is basically what it does. And that's why more and more people are looking at the Golden Visa as an opportunity. Now, yes, this week or last week, we did have a statement said in passing by that potentially the Golden Visa may shut down. There's many different reasons for that. There's been a lot of pressure from the EU government to try and push this. But in all honesty, we've seen this many, many times in the past. If we look at other programs that have kind of gone through these kind of changes, it's a general thing within our industry. The main thing that we need to look at now is to take advantage of the current opportunities in front of us. All right? We're expecting that possibly there may be some changes. We don't expect it to be fully cancelled, but there will be a lot of tightening up in certain areas. What we're expecting is probably End of this year, they may make an announcement because they are reevaluating the investments. They are reevaluating everything to do with Golden Visa. So we're either expecting a decision or an announcement in January next year, which would basically, in theory, what they normally do is they give us around about 6 months notice. So if they do give us a notice period in January, we're looking at June, July, that we need to now make sure that all our clients are processed. Alternatively, they may tell us in June, July, and we would then expect end of that year, so end of 2023. The main thing that we need to take from this is not to sit around anymore. So we've got a lot of clients that are sitting on the fence, deciding whether they're going to do this or not. Unfortunately, in our industry, nothing is concrete. So it's not a situation where we know for a fact in the next 6 months it's going to be open. So it rather not sit around, rather take opportunity where it is. If we go into the actual Golden Visa itself, now anyone can apply as long as you are a non-EU citizen. And obviously you don't have a criminal record. People you can include 3 generations within your application. That includes you as the main applicant, your spouse, whether married or unmarried. If unmarried, we need to at least prove you've known each other for some sort of timeline, and that you have the same home address. Now, children, no real age limit for children. The only requirement is that they have to be enrolled in full-time study. Reason for that is that's how they prove that those children are financially dependent on you. And then, if you want, you can also include your parents. Parents-in-law as well. So that would be up to you. But the requirement there again is financial dependency on the main applicant or the spouse. And if they're above the age of 65, a nice little change there. If they're above the age of 65, we don't need to prove dependency. It's automatically assumed. So there's a couple of nuances to take note of. But generally speaking, 3 generations, all on one application, all moving across to Portugal and taking advantage of the situation. Right? Now, what actually qualifies? There's been a lot of talk about changes and what happened last year and what happened this year. Beginning of this year, January 1st, 2022, everything changed as far as what you can purchase. The where remains the same. It just depends what in those certain areas you can purchase. Now, your main cities like Porto, like Lisbon, the Algarve, no longer accept residential property as a qualifying criteria for the Golden Visa. Alternatively, we have the option of commercial property. And when we say commercial property, we're not talking warehouses and things like that. We're talking apartments, apartment hotels, and hotels. So things with touristic licenses that can generate us an income. Portugal obviously has a massive tourism industry, and because of that, we can take advantage of income generating assets. Now, qualifying criteria, prices remain the same. 500,000 is a new property in your main cities. 350,000 is a renovated property in your main cities. Now, that renovated property needs to be 30 years or older, and it has to be renovated. Alternatively, we are able to move either of those properties into what we call a low density area, less than 100 people per square kilometer. The nice thing about that is the Algarve, majority of it actually qualifies. So you can still have the sun, you can still have the main cities, you can still have the oceans. Now, the 280,000 is 20% of the 350, and 400,000 is 20% of the new build properties. Right. There were some other changes that happened within the industry. Beginning of the year, other things that changed were the investment funds or venture capital funds that were growing quite nicely last year. What we've seen, however, is a decline in the uptake of that. I think a little bit might be to do with the world markets. Anyone in the investment world are seeing a little bit of turmoil there. So a lot of people are a little bit nervous to invest in investment funds. But I think the main reason is it moved from 350,000 up until 500,000. There's a couple of other options, but in general, 99% of all clients work with the two main options of real estate and investment funds. Now, if we look at since the program started, initially when the program started was real estate, and it was all about the 500,000 mark. People were purchasing property that was residential. It was an emotional purchase, and people were picturing themselves living there way down the line, where to put the furniture, where to plant that next tree. That was the general thought pattern. What we've seen since then is kind of an adaptation. People have now started to look at this more as a business decision. And because of that, they're looking at the investment as a whole. Right? Before I get into too much about properties and what we have on offer, it's important to understand the process. Now, the process begins with selecting an investment. Once that investment has been selected, we would then put everything in black and white, sign all the agreements, pay for the legal fees as well as the tax numbers, and then start the process. This includes obtaining NIF numbers for anyone above the age of 18. Once we have that, we would then be able to generate a bank account. So it has to be a domicile bank account within Portugal for the main applicant. That's the bank account where your property will be purchased from. Right? Once that account has been opened and validated, we would then be able to transfer funds from wherever it is in the world into that bank account. Right. Once the bank account has been filled, essentially, we would then be able to purchase your property. Together with the lawyers, we'll purchase your property, we'll transfer the title deed into your name, and the process can begin. Your application will be submitted. We'd have to put quite a few documents together, and the documents are generalized documents. So if it's kids, we will need birth certificates. Married, we'll need marriage certificates. Anyone above the age of 18 will need police clearances. Right? All that will be submitted, and we'll get what they call a pre-approval. So it's an approval in principle. The only thing they need to do from that point on is verify you are in fact who you are. And then the way they do that is through a biometric appointment. Fingerprints, retinal scans, all that is inclusive. Fairly simple. It does, however, require you as a family to go across to Portugal and physically be there for that moment. Once that process is done, we'll get your final approvals, the cards will be issued, and the Golden Visa then begins. So your day one is from that day that begins. Right. So that's the easy part. That card allows you visa-free access to all Schengen areas. You can spend 90 days and a 180-day period there. But the reason why I say that's an easy part is because us as Holborn, we are with you from day one all the way through. At no point in time are you left alone. We're a full A to Z service, and it's a relationship that we're going to develop over the next 5 years. Right? We make it life as easy as possible for you. Now, once you've done that, you have a residency, you have the same rights as any other citizen within Portugal. You just cannot vote, run for office, or use their passport yet. The reason why I say yet is because this program does in fact lead to citizenship. To get to the citizenship, they make it fairly straightforward. It's one of the only countries that write all these things within their laws. So it's not hearsay. You can call up their laws now and read through exactly what I'm about to tell you. For your Golden Visa to move from residency to citizenship, you need to renew your Golden Visa every 2 years. So in year 2 and year 4, you now need to renew that visa. To be able to renew that visa, you need to go through very similar to what we've gone through now. Certain documents that are required, your application, your fingerprints, all that is the same. But additionally, you now have to prove that you have visited at least 14 days during that 2-year period. We have to show a hotel stub, a flight stub, all those type of things which can then prove that you have been there for your 14 days. Once you've done your 2 renewals, in year 5, theoretically, you can now apply for your citizenship. Before we get to your citizenship, we would generally apply for permanent residency together with your citizenship. But to be able to get to that point, you also need the language. So there is a basic language test. It is an A2 level, sort of junior basic level language. It's about a 2-hour exam, 50% verbal, the other 50% is written, majority of it multiple choice, but it shouldn't be a hindrance. Majority of our clients are taking about 5 to 6 months to pass it. I've got 60-year-old, 70-year-old men that can't speak any other languages that are passing it first time. You have 5 years to be able to do this. So multiple written if need be, but I don't think you're going to need it. Once you have that passport, here's the benefit. You can travel to 187 countries visa-free. It's the same level as a UK passport. However, better than my passport because of the fact that you can still live, work, and study within the EU. All right, so the whole of the EU, all 27 member states, have still got access. Unlike Brexit, they have nothing. All right. Now, that's your general processes. Any questions, please put it within the Q&A. We can address them. But from there, let's go on to something a little bit more exciting. Right? Property. Now, the property we generally focus on is going to be in your main sort of city centers where tourism happens. Most of that revolves around the Algarve, which is the southern part of Portugal, more Mediterranean type of climate, meaning that the seas are warmer, the climate's generally warmer, and that's where you're going to get a suntan. Lisbon is always going to be popular because of the fact that it is your capital and a lot happens within the city. So we focus mainly around those areas. As a addition, we do all of Portugal. So if these areas aren't specifically the ones you're looking for, let us know and we can offer you alternatives. Right? Tonight, I'm going to focus on 3 projects. The 2 main ones, and purely for the fact that most of our clients are looking for that 280,000 mark. And if you're looking around, they're like hen's teeth. It's very, very difficult to find. And the fact that we have 2 shows sort of what we have available and our reach. On average, if you look at Holborn and what we've done in the past, currently we're doing about just over 10% of all golden visas worldwide. Right? So we kind of know what we're doing. And our offerings are sort of showing that. Now, the first property we have is a property called Riverside in Faro. It is a rejuvenation area. So this is going to be a brand new hotel built from scratch. It's going to be a 4-star hotel. The brand that will manage it is a brand called Indigo by IHG. Very, very popular brand. And they will be doing the day-to-day operations within the hotel. Now, it's going to be a 4-star hotel. What is happening with this and what's the benefit to the clients? They are looking for 140 investors. Right? Those 140 investors, we've probably got about 90 already within the frame. So that we've already got 90 moving forward. So these properties aren't looking at lasting that long on the market. They are very, very popular programs and very popular properties. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The opportunity is the fact that you're going to be a co-owner. So you'll be a co-owner of the entire development. The development is done by a company which is a large Canadian origin company. They have operations within Canada, US, as well as Portugal. In fact, they're the largest developers of hotels within Portugal and currently have about 43 different hotels. This specific one is going to be a 123-room hotel. It's going to have on-site restaurants, bars, spa facilities, swimming pools, as well as private parking. And it's going to be absolutely amazing. As a benefit to the client, we are offering that they will pay on your behalf certain costs. Those costs will be things like INT tax, which is your transfer fees. They will also pay your VAT. On this specific project, you're looking at around about 35,000 euro cost. If you work it back, if you were to get an income instead, you're probably looking at about 3%. So we do it this way also for the fact that we've also got to understand that we don't want to attract too much tax. As soon as you earn an income in Portugal, it's a flat rate of 28% for any non-domiciled Portuguese residents. So that's something you've got to keep in mind. Additionally to that, if you are living outside the country, you've got to also remember that there is a double taxation agreement, but whatever your taxes currently are, you've got to take that into account. Again, adjacent questions. So if you do have some questions about that kind of tax and how to structure it and know how to work it, speak to Jason, he'll be able to help. So a little bit of a different way of working the income. Other benefits, and you're going to hear this word quite a lot, is a buyback agreement. Now, this buyback agreement works like a forward contract. We sign the contract now. In 5 years' time, or whenever you've held your permanent residency or citizenship, they will purchase the property back from you at the same price you bought it for. So in this case, 280,000, you would buy the property. 5-6 years down the line, you now have your passports in your hand and they will buy back it. So it's money in, money out. Probably the most simplest way of obtaining your golden visa and your citizenship by far. Right. Additional benefits for you is you are able to utilize this property 7 weeks per year, and not necessarily just this property. You can use any of their hotels, and their brands range from Hilton to Sheraton to Marriott, and location differs all throughout. So from Porto to Lisbon, you've got opportunities. So if traveling Portugal is what you want to do, this may be the route for you. Right. The next property, and I like to show these next to each other, is fairly similar, also starting in the 280,000 category. The difference is this property is already existing. So this was the picture now taken in summer. Beautiful climate, obviously, as you can see. It's in an area called Holborn. Now, Holborn happens to be Jason's favorite little area. An up-and-coming fishing village, but it's not really a fishing village, but not really a city. So it's kind of in between, so it's quite personal. The specific property is walking distance from the coast, as well as views of the mountains. Now, yes, it was open in summer, but part of the process of sort of being within the renovation project is we actually have to renovate the project. We have now shut the project, shut the hotel down, and we've started renovations. The quicker we can renovate, the quicker we can open up the hotel, and the quicker we can then make profit. Now, how we're renovating this project is we are adding additional pools, tennis courts, volleyball courts, restaurants, bar facilities, and redoing every single room. So new furniture, new paintings, new TVs, new everything. So obviously taking a 4-star hotel and just making it a nicer 4-star. Right? Now, what is the benefit to the client? Now, this specific project, you're going to be buying an individual unit. That unit consists of 2 studio apartments, and those will be registered and purchased as a full title deed in your name. Right? Again, the developer will pay certain costs on your behalf, ranging around about 21,000 euro, which works out, if you take out the renovation time period, it works out to be about 3.3%. Not to say that going forward, we're not going to give you a return. In fact, on this project, from year 6 onwards, you're going to earn 50% of the rental pool, which equates, if I'm doing a sort of a withheld forecast, we're probably looking at about 4 to 5%. Target, you're looking at about 6%, but 4 to 5 is still pretty good. Additionally, this does have a buyback, as with the one before. This one's slightly different. So this one has what we call an optional buyback, giving you the best of both worlds. You sign a front buyback, you have all security in place. In year 4, you can decide, I want to cancel this buyback, I want to keep the property, sell it on my own right, and you will have that right to be able to do that. Okay? So again, best of both worlds. This project, you are able to use 2 weeks per year. While the project is shut down for renovation, we have access to this building in the back here, which is also one of our hotels, and you'd be able to stay there while the property is under renovation. Right? Still same everything that you can look forward to. Now, when we're looking at investments or properties, most of our clients are looking 2 different directions. The first direction is capital. Spending as little capital as possible, making sure that the golden visa is secured, or what clients are also looking for is return. Now, as Jason mentioned earlier, more or less when you're coming in, the lower the sort of capital amount, the less the return. So we're looking at sort of 3% from the beginning part. If we go a little bit higher up and we start to look at our other investments, we can go all the way to 7% return. So I'm going to jump through a couple of these properties and focus mainly on the one I'm talking about now. So if there's any golfers out there, this is the property for you, even if you're not a golfer. Reason being is this is the PGA golf course, designed by Sevi Ballesteros just before he passed away, and it also has a 5-star hotel on it, giving opportunities such as indoor pools, gyms, restaurants, coffee shops, bar facilities. All that is inclusive, including there, because it is obviously a golf course, we have the pro shop as well as the clubhouse just in front. Now, the option here is you're buying into these individual properties up front, and you're buying two options. The first option is a 1-bedroom apartment, fully maintained, fully looked after, no electricity prices, water prices, levies, all taken care of. Now, this project is attracting a 7% return. And the developers are so confident in this that they're actually wanting to give you the full return up front. So all 5 years worth of return from day one. In fact, so far up front that you can actually use it as part of your capital. So instead of paying 500,000, you're paying 368,000. How that works from a buyback option, again, this is an optional buyback, is at the end of the period, once you've obtained your citizenship, you walk away with a minimum of 500,000 euro, which basically means as a family of 4, the entire legal costs, government costs, all renewals are covered, and you walk away with money in your back pocket. So it's, essentially, we're almost giving you a passport and we're paying for you to do it. Right? So very, very good option there. If you are looking at sort of a higher return, a possible higher return, well, not possible, guaranteed, we can look at our studio apartments. What we have is 2 studio apartments, each of them 350,000. So it's a 700,000 investment. However, because of the developer, they are offering a discount at 500,000. So you're only paying 500,000. However, once you do the buyback, it's coming out at 700,000 return. So it's a 200,000 euro profit. Right. Other things, obviously, you've got an amazing property. You want to be able to use it. With this specific property, you can utilize it 6 weeks per year. Right. So lots and lots of benefits there. Costing wise, government fees, you're looking at 532 euro for your application. It's actually just gone up to 539 euro. For your permit costs, you're looking at 5,324 euro. These are for your residency cards, the actual cards themselves. Every 2 years, you are going to have to renew. You're looking at about 266,000 euro. I mean, not 266, it's a little bit expensive, but 2,662 euro. Other things that you need to take into account, certain real properties, you are going to have to pay your IMT tax, and you are going to have to pay stamp duty. That generally works out to be 7.3% in a touristic property, but other properties may vary between 6 and 7.5%. Right? Small fees that you should be taking into account, that's generally paid across the board. So everywhere within Portugal are things like condominium fees, IMI tax, and insurance costs. Right? These are generally annualized costs, and for a property around about 280,000, you're looking at under 1,000 euro per property. Right? As I said before, another thing to bear in mind is your taxes. So any income earned within Portugal is flat rate tax as a non-domiciled resident of 28%. Outside income does not come into this. So it's only income that is earned within Portugal. So I think I've thrown a lot of information at you. I see we have quite a lot of questions. I think let's get some of those questions.
I was going to offer you a little break, Shane. You've been doing very well there. You look like you need a glass of water.
I need a coffee.
Do you want me to? I'm just thinking we could maybe play the video on the yellow tulip and give you a little break for a few minutes. You have a laugh at my acting skills.
Go for it. I appreciate it.
Unfortunately, not got one for your personal favourite at Royal Obidos, but
that's beautiful.
No, that's fine. I enjoy your acting skills, and I'm sure everyone else will as well.
Looking forward to this, and we'll take the questions afterwards.
Right, let me just make sure we're sharing the sound. Okay. Sound okay?
Not hearing
Hear the
any
sound?
audio. Hearing you
haven't shared
not any
anything,
audio
Joe.
on a film, and we're not seeing a film at the moment.
No.
The
Really
elusive
not.
yellow
Okay,
tulip. There we go.
there
That's
we
better.
go.
Okay, here we go. Get in there. Okay, because you're sharing at the same time, Shane. Hold on 1 second.
Technical difficulties. We've got to love Zoom.
No worries. Thank you, Steve, for your first question. We'll come to these in a little while Jason's figuring that out. Steve as well. Thank you, Stephen, Daryl, David, Michael, Astrid, our very own Expats Portugal's Astrid, asking questions. Come to those. Nice one.
500,000 euros. That is the minimum price tag for those looking to buy a new build property here in Portugal that wish to qualify for the Golden Visa. Those that are fortunate enough to be able to afford that price will immediately benefit from the right to live, work and retire anywhere in Portugal. Not only that, after 5 years they'll have the option to apply for the European passport, which allows them to do all of the above in any of the European states. But what happens if you don't want to spend 500,000 euros? Well, you have two options. Option one is you can buy a property that isn't brand new. And if you can find one that you like that's over 30 years old, you can bring that 500,000 down to just 350,000. Option two is where you can buy a property in what is deemed to be a low density area. Unfortunately, however, that rules out most of the Algarve, Porto, Lisbon. So the question is, do you really want to buy an old property in the middle of nowhere with no tourism? Well, today we're going to have a look at how you can keep that 280,000 euro price tag, but have all of the above and more. What if I said there was a purchase you could make here in the Algarve? It's just walking distance from the beach with 5 years rental income guaranteed for 285,000 euros. What if I said that rental income was paid up front as part of the purchase? If that doesn't sell it for you, there is the developer that will offer to buy the property back from you once you have your passport in 5 years, the same price as what you purchased it for. Sound too good to be true? Well, walk with me and see why Holborn Assets continues to be the market leader for Golden Visa investments here in Portugal. Allow me to introduce you to Alvor, situated here between Portimao and Lagos in the Algarve. Alvor is one of my personal favourites, and later this month Holborn Assets will be releasing a new development here in Alvor, just 5 minutes walking distance from this beach right behind me. The thing with Alvor is that it is still situated in what is deemed to be a low density area, meaning that we can meet that lowest price entry point of 280,000. The development that will be offered later this month, the starting price will be 285,000 with all of what we just mentioned a moment ago. You'll also be able to stay in the property, rent the property and sell it back at the price you paid for as soon as your passports have been granted. Now, some of you might be aware that the rules changed around the Golden Visas in January 2022, where you can no longer purchase residential properties. That's not to say that you can't enjoy your holidays still with a commercial or a touristic investment. That's all I can tell you for now. The official launch will be later on this month. In the meantime, you can download more information on this page, or you can register for one of our webinars, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Make your investments do more with Holborn Assets.
That's great, Jason. Very good.
That was before I grew this moustache for November.
Thought so. But that's very excellent. Thank you for that. Are you gentlemen ready to take some questions now?
We are indeed.
Fantastic. Okay, wonderful. Steve was in first then, and he was asking, well, he was saying, Hola, boa noite. Very good, Steve. So it sounds like you're well on the way to the A2 there. What is the best resource to identify specific towns, cities, and areas that are Golden Visa eligible in Portugal following the changes that became effective in January 22? It sounds like you've covered quite a lot of that in the discussion this evening, and maybe a call with you to discuss them specifically. What would you add to that? That sounds like one for Jason there, doesn't it? You need you to unmute there, Jason.
The
classic phrase. Classic phrase. As you saw in the video, my favourite is the Algarve, and in Alvor. Alvor is it's a nice mix between city centre and still being in a place where you've got very high level of tourism. And you can be right next to the beach all at the same time, and you can still meet that 280,000 price tag as well. So you get a lot for your money, and yeah, there isn't as much money needed compared to if you're buying in, right in the city centres. So for me, yeah, Alvor would be my vote. Shannon, if you got anything to add to that?
No, I'd have to agree with you. I mean, you live there, you get to experience it all the time.
Yeah, and if you're wondering when Shane said that's where you can get a suntan, the reason Jason hasn't got a suntan is he's too busy helping people with their golden visas, and he's in the office all the time. I think. I think what Steve was asking there is a map, and I think it's kind of hard to do that now, isn't it, with the different kinds of criteria that are involved. So maybe, Steve, a call to the Holborn guys would be the best way to address that in terms of resources and identifying specific areas. Your supplementary question was another question. There is, does the NHR have in-country stay requirements similar to the D7, 16 months in the country during the first 2-year period and 28 months in each 3-year subsequent period? Thank you for that clarification, Steve, on the D7. What would you say to that, Jason?
There's two parts. The NHR, it's not a visa. It's a tax status. The D7 is kind of the permission to live in Portugal. And very similar to the Golden Visa is permission to live in Portugal. But NHR is a tax regime that you apply for when you move here. And when you become tax resident in Portugal, that's when you can apply for those tax benefits that we talked about before, which is the NHR regime. So there's no requirements for it. It's just it kicks in when you become tax resident in Portugal.
Yeah, okay, and you just have to make sure that you're signed up and kick that into action at the right time. Thank you, Steve, for that question. Anonymous participant: do parents have to be living in the same household? So you were talking, Shane, about 3 generations in the same household. Yeah, and there was a slight pause when you said you could bring your in-laws, I think. Does everyone have to be in the same household?
No, they don't. So as long as you can prove some sort of financial dependency, if there is financial dependency and they're below the age of 65, then that's fairly simple. You can prove that you are transferring monies across to them, you're assisting them with income, you're helping them on a day-to-day basis. As soon as the parents are above the age of 65, we now no longer have to prove it. So we don't have to worry about where are they living, what is their income, are they retired. It's just a case of you no longer need to prove it. It's automatically assumed.
Okay, very good. There you go. That's for you, anonymous participant there. Steve Rosen, you're asking a D7 question, probably not the right environment. Try our Migration Tuesday webinar. That'll be next Tuesday. Gilda's the expert on that. Not taking anything away from your glory, gentlemen, but this, of course, is a Golden Visa discussion this evening. Parents have to be over 65 to be included in the D7 application. How about for the Golden Visa? And I think you've addressed that there as well already, Shane, haven't you? Yeah. There you go. Yeah, okay.
As I said.
Yeah, Daryl, still not clear what in the Algarve qualifies. That was asked some time ago, and I think that's very clear now. Thank you for that question, Daryl. If it's not, do ask in the Q&A section there. Great question from David. Good evening, David. How responsive is CEF right now? What's your experience, gents, of dealing with CEF at the moment?
So CEF, strangely enough, has picked up. They're actually doing their job, which is quite a good thing. We've seen over the last couple of months, the timeframes have now started to decrease. So basically, the reason for that is what happened from the 1st of January until June of this year, they stopped taking any applications. So what that means is now they've worked through the entire backlog. Last year's December have already started to get their biometric appointments, which basically means they jumped straight away from that date into June. So now we're starting to see that then getting processed. So we've jumped 6 months in advance, and the times have picked up with that. They've calmed down within the different departments, and we're seeing progress. That's
great to know. There you go, David. Your other question is, does the Golden Visa allow unlimited days in Portugal? I.e., are your days in Portugal excluded from the 90, 180-day Schengen requirement? That's an interesting question, isn't it? Because a lot of people with the Golden Visa are thinking, I've only got to be there a week or 2 weeks in a 2-year period. And they're thinking about how little they're going to be there. You can be here as long as you like, presumably, if you want to be.
Like I said, I mean, you've got the same rights as any other Portuguese citizen.
Yeah.
You can live there, work there, go in the social systems, medical, all that's included. The only thing you cannot do is run for office. So there's no going for president just yet, and you can't vote.
I wonder if you've disappointed anyone tonight for saying that. Probably not, but give it time, folks, if that is your aspiration in Portugal. Michael, thank you for your question. Does every family member need to have a NIF and a bank account in order to be included in the Golden Visa? Good question.
So the answer is no. As far as the NIF goes, it's anyone above the age of 18. We'll get a tax number that way. As far as the bank account, it's only the main applicant that actually requires the bank account, because that's where the property needs to be purchased. The property will be in the main application, the main applicant's name, and therefore has to have that bank account.
Brilliant.
None of that. You can have it. I mean, it's obviously a benefit that you can have, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah, and there will come a time in everyone's life in Portugal when the NIF will be inevitable, but only over 18s, you're saying there. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Our own Astrid from Expats Portugal, is the buyback optional or compulsory at the end of the term?
So for the two projects that we've mentioned, the initial project in Riverside Manor, Riverside Farrow, that is a compulsory buyback. So essentially, you're signing a 15-year contract with a forward contract with the developer. End of the process, there are trigger points during that time, but essentially, yes, you have to sell back to that specific developer. The other options are optional options, which basically means you will sign it at the beginning. You've got 4 years to decide, review the markets, make sure everything's going in the right direction. In year 4, you can decide, I want to cancel that buyback. So that's where the optional part comes into play. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Shane, for that. And thanks for that question, Astrid. And staying with the buyback, thank you, Michael, for this question. Is the buyback only an option for when you become a citizen or a permanent resident? Does that have any effect on the buyback?
So that's why the buyback is stipulated. So that's one of the trigger points. Okay. Is that if a client decides they want to continue as a Golden Visa holder for the rest of their lives, they can do that. And in that format, we can keep extending that. So we can continue to keep it in your name. But essentially, if you're going to cancel in year 4, it'll go into your name, and you can do with it what you want. So you've got different options with it. But no, you don't have to wait until your permanent residency or citizenship. You can be extended as long as required.
Great. Thank you for that question, Michael. And finally, for now, do make sure if you have a question on your mind, no such thing as a silly question. I'm very happy to put it forward, even if you express it anonymously. We're here to find out information about the Golden Visa. And in many ways, we're finding out before it's too late. So get a move on, basically, is one of the key messages tonight. Astrid asking, if you get the Golden Visa through one of the Holborn's investments and want to live in Portugal at the same time, are you able to rent another property and live there, or are you tied to the one you're buying?
Yeah, so I mean, you have all the freedom in the world. The Golden Visa, the property that you're going is almost silent, so that'll take care of the Golden Visa. But once you have that in your name, you can buy a property anywhere for any price and without any kind of restrictions. So yeah, you are more than welcome to have multiple properties, as many as you'd like, and move around, or Airbnb, or whatever the situation is.
Okay. Can you answer this one? Thank you for that, by the way, Shane. And thank you, Astrid. Can you answer this? This might be more in Jason's department here. Do US pensioners pay 10% tax in addition to what they pay the IRS? Do you know the answer to that, Jason?
Yeah, the good news is, Michael, you won't pay an extra 10% tax. There is a tax treaty between the US and Portugal, but unfortunately, America is one of just 2 countries worldwide that continues to tax you based on your passport rather than where you live. So you will be subject only to American tax rates, more than Portuguese tax rates when you move. But
Yeah.
no, there's no additional tax of 10%.
That's good to know. There you go, Michael. Was the other one Somalia? I heard before. Was it? Do you know the other country that taxes you?
I think South Korea.
South Korea. There you go. Yes, it's strange, isn't it, that those two do that? Okay. What happens then? Late question in from Astrid. Thank you. So, what happens if we are in negotiation with you and money paid and the Golden Visa scheme gets cancelled? Good question. There. This is all about timing, isn't it? Is there an out clause in that instance?
Wait, say that one,
you want to take that?
I think that's
okay.
All right.
It's giving these questions away. The answer is yes. We have those clauses stipulated within all our agreements. So if there were to be a situation where the property no longer qualifies as a Golden Visa option and it goes away, we will refund full property price.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Thank you.
Just to kind of add to that as well, Karen, just as a quick recap, the timing issue in summary, in a worst case scenario, we may find that applications must be submitted by June next year in a worst case scenario. So to do that, you must have purchased a property beforehand, which generally takes kind of 4 to 5 months. But if there's any delays with the property purchase, then yes, there is 100% safeguards in place to make sure that our buyers are not at any financial loss in a very worst case scenario.
That's good to know. Thank you for that timeline point there as well. What did you think when you heard the news that the president had said those things at Web Seminar? Sorry, Web Summit, not Web Seminar. Web Summit.
We're kind of aware of it. We know full well that the Golden Visa has kind of served its purpose now as to when it was introduced, best part of 10 years ago now. But yeah, we're just fortunate. It's not, like I said, it's not something that can happen overnight. We just need to be just preparing accordingly,
Well, the upside, I guess, is it's focused people's minds, hasn't it? Which is a good thing in this instance. Well, thank you very much. You've dealt promptly and efficiently with all the Q&A questions there, which is great. Thank you for being here this evening for our Expats Portugal webinar. Perhaps we could have your slide again, Jason, of the contact details for people getting in touch with you. You can see Jason's got his email address up on the screen as well. But that's how to get in touch with Holborn Assets there, directly with Jason, and I'm sure you can get through to Shane Peacock in the same way. Thank you both, gentlemen, Jason and Shane, this evening, and thank you everybody for being here for this week's Expats Portugal webinar. We'll see you again next week. Thank you, gentlemen. Last word to you.
Yep, that's fine. Thanks, Carl. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure.
Great to see you again, and thank you, Shane.
Yes.
Ciao. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.